So I'm either gonna have to get a new job or hit the lottery because shooting this AR-15 is probably my new favorite thing to do. Hey, what's up everybody, it's S. So I finally got to take this AR-15 to the range a few weeks ago and I had an absolute blast. It was probably the best time that I've had at the range in quite some time. Now that said, it was probably the most expensive time that I've had at the range in quite some time as well. Now, I'm not sure how everyone else on YouTube can afford to mag dump and do burn down videos with 5.56. And I'm not even going to talk about how expensive 300 Blackout is, but the ammo for this compared to my 9mm is insane. Every shot was a little more than twice the price than what I'm used to. Bruh. So now that I'm done complaining about the price of ammo, let me talk about how awesome this rifle is. This thing is absolutely amazing. It exceeded all of my expectations in just about every way possible. Now, as you know, I don't have any credentials and I'm not a firearms nerd. I'm just some random dude on the internet, so take this for what you will. But this is probably my new favorite firearm. It's definitely my new favorite AR pistol. It's also the only AR pistol that I own. Now, in order for me to stay a little organized, or as organized as I can be, I'm gonna start at the rear and then I'm gonna move forward and talk about the first impressions of this rifle. So this brace, which is the SBA 5 Tactical, is way better than the SBA 3 one that I used to use before. It's way more rigid, it's a lot more comfortable, but it's definitely more sturdy than the other braces that I've had or used in the past. Now, it's definitely not a stock by any means, but it was definitely nice in my opinion, and I would absolutely recommend it. I wish that I could go ahead and put a stock on it instead, but I don't want to make this a 2-stamp gun, and I really enjoy my freedom, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with the brace for now. Now, I just have the basic buffer system here, nothing crazy. I do have the RMS lower, the one with the recoil mitigation system. It has a longer weight, a longer spring, and it's 3/4 of an inch longer, but I haven't used it yet, so I can't really compare it now. And honestly, I don't know if it really matters because this thing didn't kick anyway. Now the internals are all stock or BCM mil spec. I haven't done anything to the trigger or anything else. And I think this actual trigger is I think it's a PNC or a PNT. I think it's maybe polished nickel Teflon. But I do like this trigger better than the standard Aero Precision one that I was running before. I don't know how it compares to something like a Geisley, but for my purposes, I felt like it worked, just fine. Now this upper includes an 11.5-inch ELW barrel. That's the enhanced lightweight barrel. I think it's about a pound or maybe a pound and a half lighter than the standard one. I can't remember off the top of my head. But this one also has the 10-inch M-LOK. At least I think that's 10 inches. Now, the one thing I will say is that this rail got hot and it got hot quickly. I only shot through around, I think it was like 150 rounds. And by the end of it, this thing was smoking. It was definitely getting toasty. And I think you can even see some of the marks here from where it got really hot. I don't know if the camera's picking that up, but this thing definitely got hot. Now, it wasn't necessarily uncomfortable, but it was definitely heading in that direction. And since I live in Texas and we're heading into the summer where the temps get nuclear, I think I'm gonna go ahead and put some rail covers on it. Now, I've seen that the BCM ones get mixed reviews, so I might go with Magpul, unless somebody drops me a different recommendation in the comments. I also already have some black Magpul ones that I could use, but you already know I'm FDE gang over here. So I'm definitely gonna order something, just not quite sure what yet. Now for the sights, they held up pretty well. These are just some Magpul M-Bus plastic sights. I couldn't really hit shit, but that's par for the course at this point, so no complaints there. Overall, my range trip was great. I don't think I've had that much fun in quite some time, so I highly recommend going with BCM if you're on the fence. Then again, what the hell do I know? But if you do want to see some of the experts talk about BCM, I do recommend you check out, Honest Outlaw or maybe Mr. Gunners and Gear. There's also a newer channel. I think his name is like Southern Draw or something like that. If I remember, I'll go ahead and put a screenshot of his channel in the video. I really, really like his BCM content. Now, I am very excited for the upgrades that I have planned over the next few months. I plan on getting a red dot, which is going to be the EOTech EXPS2 specifically, and I'll also be adding a Surefire RC2 to it as well. Now, I mentioned it in my video before that, I was going to go with the, the closed tine flash hider or the muzzle brake, and that I was going to stay away from the war comp because it leaks. And then I got a comment asking about, what that really meant. I'm not an expert, so take all of this with a grain of salt. And if I remember, I'll put a picture up that I found on the interwebs that, shows all the different muzzle devices, but the War Comp has, ports down like, near the threads. And because of that, and because the RC2 is a high back pressure can, a lot or some of the gas leaks out of the suppressor near the threads. And I think it's because of those ports. So instead of it all flowing back through the system, some of the gas expels here and will get on your hands. Now the other muzzle devices that I mentioned, the CTN or the brake, they don't necessarily have those ports. They have like a labyrinth seal, or they just don't have the ports, which helps prevent, the gas from obviously escaping, near the threads. Now, is that a deal breaker? Probably not. There are a ton of people who run War Comps and swear by them. I'm just going to go with, one of the other options. Now, Surefire does offer a 3 or 4 pronged muzzle device that has the labyrinth seals, but I hate those more than I hate the leaking War Comp. And it's simply because of the sound that they make. So I know it sounds stupid, but that pinging sound drives me crazy. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, just search YouTube for, 3-prong ping or something like that, and you'll see, or I guess hear what I'm talking about. After every shot, there's like a little high-pitched pinging sound that drives me insane and makes my OCD flare up. So because of that, I'm only left with the closed-tine flash hider or the muzzle brake. I do think they actually have, one more option, like a regular flash hider that's suppressor capable. Again, I'm still working all that out in my head, but I have plenty of time because I got to save up for the suppressor anyway. So overall, man, I could not be any happier with this rifle than I am. If you're on the fence, I say pull the trigger. It's made by a great company with a great track record, and you get a free, bolt carrier group. It's not the FDE one that I have here. It's the regular black one, but it's a free BCG nonetheless. Or at least it did come with the BCG at the time of this recording, but with everything going on in the world, who knows if that's going to continue. So you may want to make a move if you're thinking about it. So hopefully I can get a red dot in the next month or so. After that, I'll start working on the brake and the suppressor so that I can finish out this build, because I'm already thinking about how I want to start working on the second one. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and drop some more footage in. Thanks for watching me ramble and talk about my first impressions of, this BCG. Again, I could not recommend it more than I already do. I absolutely love everything about this thing, with the exception of the price of ammo, but I guess that's the cost of doing business if you're going to shoot .223 or 5.56. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.